Okay, good. Let's get started. Morning everyone. Hope you all had a very good weekend. I've been preparing for this Monday Huddle for my weekend. I'm going to talk about a topic which is, I think, very interesting for this special period, which is called Reconstruct Your Habits. Why I chose this topic is basically because of the coronavirus. As you all know, everyone's life has been changed just in maybe one day or 1 week. So it's been a very challenging time for all of us to feel uncertain, upset, or even, terrified. But as a Chinese, as a Chinese would think, like in China, the world crisis, um, which is actually a combination of danger and opportunity. So the Chinese way of thinking of a crisis is basically how to find the opportunity from the crisis. So that's why I think we should actually take another point of view of this crisis and try to take some strategic actions to achieve our long-term goals. So that's why I chose this topic. And these are the things I'm going to talk about. So the first one, what are habits? Habits are nothing but simple cue, routine, reward loops that saves our effort. Our brain is trying to be lazy. If you keep doing things again and again, it's just going to become an ultimate action, and that's becoming our habit, right? So the cue is the trigger for you to do something, and the routine is what you do, and the reward is what you feel after you actually do something. And from my point of view, there are two types of habits. One is the behavioral habits, which are what we do, and the other one is the mental habits, which are how our minds used to think in different situations. And why habits matter? It's just because habits are how we do things, how we feel, and it's just how we spend our time, maybe. And if you think of that way, it's literally just you. You are your habits. So that's why it matters so much. And only changing a small thing, a small habit in your daily life can lead to a dramatic change in your entire life. If you look at this photo, which face do you think is healthier and younger? If most of you will agree, I think this one looks a little bit healthier, because maybe this lady smiles a lot in her daily life, so people will generally think she looks better. And that's why small habits actually have big power in our life. And not surprisingly, behavioral science showed us that small changes in the way we act and think can lead to big changes in our lives. That's why we need to work on our habits. So if you all feel habits are important, the next question is why we always feel so difficult to change our habits. I'm sure everyone has experienced this, right? It's basically because it's very difficult to break in our existing loop. The cue, routine, reward loop is just so ingrained in our daily life. And if we want to be lazy, we just don't want to spend our willpower to change something that's already exists. So that's kind of something we need to be aware of. So it's not easy to change the habit. But now I feel it's the perfect time to change. Why is that? If you don't have enough willpower, it's okay, because the society has forced you to change. The cues are changing now, right? So actually the best timing for introducing new habits are when a major change occurs in our life, which makes our routines suddenly change or even disappear altogether. That's how exactly what we are feeling now. So that's why now is the perfect time to change. So the next question is how to change our habits. There's some advice from an expert who has written a book called The Power of Habits, and he has provided this advice. The first one is to identify the routine, the things you're doing. And the second one is to experiment with rewards. And the third one is to isolate the cue. For example, if you want to quit smoking, just don't look at just hide your cigarettes or throw out all the cigarettes. And the last one is to have a plan. But I'm not going to talk about the expert advice. If you are interested, you can look at the book he has written. I'm going to give some my personal advice to you guys. So the first thing I want to let you know is what you actually need to do is to get interested in yourself. So just imagine you are dating someone. Now you're dating yourself. So what you need to do is to actually take a step back and observe what are you doing? What are you feeling? So these things can actually help you to find out the things that make you feel happy and empowered. So if you always find like go outside, just go into the sunshine and breathe fresh air, this makes you feel happy. That's how you feel, right? And then you can also identify some of the bad habits that you always want to ditch. So, for example, if you always want to cut your time on social media and every time you do it with 2 hours scrolling up the news and you just find yourself not feeling happy at all, or you might feel more anxious, that might be a bad habit that you want to get rid of. So that's the first thing. Just observe yourself. And the second thing is to start by designing your routines. So from my understanding, the morning routines and the evening routines are actually the most important part that you should work on. And there are some tips for designing a good morning routine. Let's go through them. The first one would be do proactive things rather than reactive things. So what does this mean? This means in the morning, you shouldn't reply your emails. This is something reactive. This is something the world requires you to do. It's not something you as a person want to do. So maybe focus on proactive things rather than reactive things in your morning routine. And also, many books have advised to practice mindfulness. You can do meditation for maybe just 2 minutes, or if you just hate meditation, you can simply focus on any simple task you are currently doing. For example, if you are making coffee, just focus on making coffee, not thinking about work or any other problems. So that's actually another form of practicing mindfulness. And the third one is to add some exercise to your morning routine. Maybe just do some stretches to wake up your body. That could help. And the last one is to have a healthy breakfast. Don't eat burgers in your breakfast. And what makes a good evening routine? There are 3 things I think is important. The first thing is you need to plan the important things you need to do for the next day. You can write that down or just put that into your to-do app, and then you can forget about that. Then you should actually unwire yourself from the busy activities you've done in a day. If you want, you can also write reflective diary about your day and try to, observe yourself. And the third one is also an important one, which is to get enough hours of sleep. Everyone needs different hours of sleep. The average would be 7 to 9 hours, I believe. And if you just can't get enough hours of your need, it's probably next morning you wake up, it's going to be very tired and you can't actually start one full day. And if you guys remember, I've mentioned there are some mental habits everyone have. So I find there's a very interesting framework for identifying different tendencies people are used to have when they try to make changes in our life. So let's have a look at the different types, and maybe you can try to think of which type are you. So the first one is called upholder. So this kind of person always find it easy to respond to your own and others' expectations. So for example, you are going to do everything in your to-do list, right? But if there's no clear cut out rules or there's no expectation, then you don't know what to do. So if an upholder wants to get a new habit, for example, go to gym, what he needs to do is just to put that go to gym on his calendar, and then he will know, okay, I need to do this. Even if it's raining, even if I have a tired day, I need to go to gym. And the second type is called questioner. So this type of person would actually scrutinize what's expected of you and also comply only if they make sense to you. And this means if you want to start a new habit and you are a questioner, you will take a lot of time to gather the momentum. So you need that motivation of you, convincing yourself this actually makes sense. So if this kind of person wants to go to the gym, maybe they should start look at some statistics and also use some exercise app to try to convince themselves and to gather the momentum. And the third type is called obliger. So this kind of person has no problem meeting with expectations if there are expectations. But the problem is it's very difficult for them to put an expectation on themselves. So this type of person, if they want to start gym, maybe they should have a friend who's a gym fan, like maybe Samkate, and this kind of person will push themselves. Okay, you need to go to gym. And then he will go to gym. And the last type is called rebel. So this type is very interesting. If you are a rebel, you resist all expectations, whether they are coming from you or other people. You just don't like expectations. But the only way you can change or you want to change is to being authentic to yourself and have that self-determination of doing something. So for a rebel, they don't need a calendar. They just need to tell themselves, I actually need to do this. It's not just because it's in my calendar, it's because I want to do this. So that's how a rebel can actually have a new habit in their life. So just think about these 4 types and try to think which type you fall into. And the last thing I want to share is to design our routines practically, because I think if a plan cannot be executed, that's a failed plan. So for me, the most important thing is actually have a plan that can be executed for a long time. So that's something I want to share with you guys. So these are my tips. The first one is to start small. So if you want to start a habit, just start with maybe a very short time, like 2 minutes meditation or 2 minutes stretches. Don't aim for too much. Don't aim for 20 minutes for the first day. That will make you feel very pressed. And the second one is think about the minimal. What do I mean by this? So usually if I try to plan something, I think about the worst case and the best case. And the minimal is the worst case. So I will be thinking, okay, maybe my morning routine can only have 30 minutes. What am I going to do in this 30 minutes to make me happy? And if I have 2 hours or just 1 hour, I can do something else, right? But I always start by thinking of the minimal things I need to do. And the third one is to focus on feeling empowered. So by this one, I mean, if you have heard about other people's morning routine and that works very well with them, but you have tried and you just don't like it, don't force yourself to like it, because you will be experimenting different things, and you actually need to focus on your own feelings. And the fourth one is to always leave some buffer. So if you are planning, don't try to make use of every minute. Try to leave maybe 10% of buffer to just for in case something happens that will make you feel less stressed. And the fifth one, it's okay to skip your routine. So if you have a routine and you skip it for 1 day or 2 days in a week, don't feel bad for yourself, right? It's very normal. And what you need to think is actually why you skip your routine. Maybe it's you sleep too late last night, and how can you change that? Or if it's going to be a long-term thing, maybe you need to try to be flexible and ready to change your routine. That's something you need to think about, not just blaming yourself. And the seventh one is to not give your attention easily. So I think if there's something more precious than our time, that will be our attention. So every app is trying to steal some attention from you every day, but you must be very conscious of what you put your attention on, right? It's your very precious resource. So don't just let it go. And the last but not least important one is me time is the highest priority. So every day, even if you have a very busy schedule, you must have some time for yourself. This is very important, I find. Because me time is trying to help you clear your mind and also trying to help you to stay focused on what you're actually passionate about and what your actual motivation is. So this kind of time just help you to relax your mind and get back to the right direction for your life. And if you really cannot find any time, my suggestion would be go to the toilet without your phone. So just spend that 2 minutes on your toilet and try to maybe have some thoughts on yourself. That would help as well. Okay, so that's my topic, and let's go to the questions now. The first one, how's your weekend? And the second one is share with us about your type of tendency, one good habit you have, one bad habit you want to ditch, one new habit you want to build, and what's your priority for this week. And my priority for this week will be 3M. Thanks, everyone. By the way, I've got some resources, like there's a quiz to check your tendency type, and there's some good articles I find interesting, and I'm going to share the slide with you guys on the channel. Thank you.
Thanks, Lena.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.